my name is Cormac and I'm the Regional Director for Help Logistics Limited in East Africa, which is a program of the Kuehne Foundation. So we're one of the co-facilitators of this conference, which is being facilitated by us, by WFP, by the IFRC, by the Interagency Working Group, the Humanitarian Logistics Association and the University of Nairobi. And the conference is all about looking at humanitarian logistics now and in the next decade to see where we'll be by 2030. So we're focusing on some questions that have come out of an analysis of the Sustainable Development Goals, where we're trying to imagine what technology will look like by the time we get to 2030, what the different roles of the various players in the humanitarian sector will look like, what integration is going to look like, and what are the kind of ethical standards or the sustainable issues that we're going to be facing. So the point of this conference is, of course, to give experts the opportunity to say what they think is going to happen, but we're also very curious to hear what the different delegates and representatives also believe is going to happen, because these are oftentimes the guys who are on the ground, who are doing the actual work.
I think the very first thing to say is to give you a very warm welcome to the 6th Africa Logistics Conference under the working title Humanitarian Logistics and the Sustainable Development Goals 2030.
The skill of adaptiveness is by far more part of most of the humanitarian aid workers' DNA than in my professional life. In a world that is becoming increasingly complex, volatile, and prone to disaster, we have no choice than constantly adapting to changing environment and unforeseeable events. So if someone would ask me what a global commercial company could learn from a humanitarian organization, this would be my number one response. Ability and motivation to work in constant changing environments, accepting course correction as a natural rule without losing sight of the target.
This is a key networking event for us in the East Africa region. It reinforces our presence through the new establishment of the Help Logistic Office in Nairobi in 2016. It brings our current partners, commercial sector, academia together to think innovatively about supply chain solutions to help meet the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030.
So all of these stations represent different groups. So the whole bunch of participants will be divided into those different groups and will be set up at different stations to talk through some of the issues and the questions that are being investigated in the conference today. The questions will be answered by a series of expert panelists, expert speakers, and then they'll also be responded to by the audience. So we've got about 150 to 180 people scheduled to arrive, and they're coming from a variety of organizations.
Talk about zero hunger. It's not just not enough calories, it's also not enough protein, and especially it's not enough nutrient. We are going to deliver those nutrient products to those people that need it, but at the same time we invest in food industry that will be able to lift up the GDP, because it has to go hand in hand.
We have a lot of friends in private sector. We have Johnson & Johnson, Unilever, Coke, Procter & Gamble. And what we did is we brokered support, private sector support, to come in and fill the specific gaps, skill gaps that were identified. For example, the Johnson & Johnson expert was a demand planner, and he was seconded to the Ministry of Health for 1 year.
For years, we've been always talking about response. How do we align? We have a lot of guidelines. If you go to many international organizations, private sector, even the big corporates, part of the CSRs, yes. And you go to our governments like in Tanzania, there's a desk at the Prime Minister office that deals with emergency responses. Yes, that is well and good, structures are there. But what can we also take out of that and try to align now looking at to the future, especially the advanced technology, the stronger communications, also easy access to world news.
And the broader purpose, really, in our case, in the case of Africa Improved Foods, is not just to address the issues of hunger and malnutrition, but also to address the root causes that create hunger and malnutrition in the first place. The objective for 2030 needs to be a world where we just don't have humanitarian aid at all, obviously, and if it is, And in order to get towards that, anyway, we need to start addressing the preconditions and structural issues that we're trying to address.
You know, I think there's a lot of need for us to start coming together and coordinate better amongst ourselves to achieve an integrated supply chain. We all know it makes sense. It's just not sitting and agreeing how we're going to do it.
A well-integrated supply chain is thinking more about connecting your people, your levels, your functions and processes, and your data. This focus on the people, processes, data, and functions does in fact promote improved performance, efficiency, and cohesion, and most importantly is a really important strategy for helping supply chains become more customer focused.
Because we are caught often in our day-to-day operational responsibility, and the private sector seems to have a better horizon or a better way of integrating that new technology in the work that they do. It's about, can we bring together the different actors around a common cause, find the same language, work together, and actually be prepared the next time. I think that's one of the challenges for this group, because it's not just about response, it's actually about being prepared.
The rate of increase in global temperature has never been higher, looking back through the climate record going back millions of years. In the case of the emergency, we just have to accept that there the priority is to save lives and maintain welfare, and our environmental goals should be secondary to that one, no question. But in the case of the longer term, proactive, structural, systematic aspects of humanitarian, then I think we've got more time and we should be attaching greater priority in those areas. Governments will have to impose tighter regulations, we'll have to introduce emissions charging and set the carbon price very high. But those things might still be 2 or 3 decades away. But the other problem for the humanitarian sector is the demand for humanitarian logistics support is going to be increasing over this time period. Because there's so much climate change in the pipeline.
We have the environmental policy that looks at the impact of our operations on the environment. And at the same time, we have a climate change policy that looks vice versa on what's the impact of climate change on our operations and how we can adapt to ensure efficiency in a changing climate.
It's my first time I've been to this conference. I'm really enjoying it. It's a great mix of the various stakeholders, the NGOs, the companies, the academics as well. It's a nice mix of presentations. So I think it's achieving what we hope, which is networking people within this very important area of humanitarian logistics.
It's a call for us to work together, and I think the discussions today in this conference have captured the mood, or rather the directions in which we really need to, to move on, to really work together, and I'm very excited.
Up to 35 degrees, but we recommend you.
Today, in a rapid exchange idea, I presented 2 tools that we have developed in collaboration with Help Logistics and a number of humanitarian organizations to help decision-making leaders in the field make better decisions when it comes to supply chain.
What we are presenting here during this conference is a wonderful solution for production and distribution of drinking water.
With the highly off-road capable Unimog and our highly efficient water purification system, we have a solution to produce 360,000 liters of 100% safe drinking water at each part and in each corner of this world.
Zipline is the world's first and only drone delivery company. So rather than have to solve all the cold chain problems and staff problems and budget problems involved with managing an inventory at every possible clinic, which no country in the world has figured out how to do, We solve all those problems by centralizing all the inventory in our facility and then using drones to get any clinic whatever they need in about 15 minutes.
What we see coming out of this conference is a strengthening of the partnerships between private sector, academia, the United Nations, and government. And that partnership, those partnerships, and the way we work together and the way we prepare together are critical given the current global context.
Most important things for me was to see how we can align, we can benefit from the synergies that are around, we can help the countries in need and the countries that are able to offer additional support through platforms like this and the people that are supporting this conference.
Let sustainability issues in the whole supply chain ecosystem not be a compliance issue. Let it be a mind shift, let it be a best practice for us going forward, and we will leave this world for many generations to come. That's my take from this conference.